Hi everyone, Darren and Sean again from Helping Partners. We just thought we would revisit some of the common questions we're getting asked by our clients that may help you in assessing your eligibility. So Sean, can you help us understand this revenue drop of 30% or 15% for charities and how that might work and how it's calculated?
Yeah, sure, Darren. So this is probably the number one question we're getting from businesses. How do we demonstrate a 30% reduction in turnover? So I think the first thing to emphasise is that the ATO are defining turnover the same way it's defined for GST purposes, which in layman's terms is the amounts you report as revenue on your business activity statement. And as a base rule, the ATO are saying that businesses need to demonstrate that they have or will have a reduction of 30% or more of their turnover in comparison to the same period last year. So again, in layman's terms, that means taking your April BAS if you're a monthly lodger, or your June quarter BAS if you're a quarterly lodger, comparing that against the same period from 12 months earlier and showing a 30% reduction. The ATO have indicated that businesses who in good faith forecast a fall of 30% or more but just miss that target, that they will show those businesses some leniency.
So if a business lodges their March BAS and their turnover is not down that much because this really only impacted on us the last few weeks of March, they'll have the ability to forecast their future revenue like we can with the GST legislation and still apply and get paid this potentially.
The ATO is looking to match the period in which the business receives the JobKeeper payment with the period in which they experience a downturn in revenue. So the fact that businesses may not have been impacted greatly in March, or for example in the March quarter may not be down 30%, doesn't stop you accessing the scheme which started on the 30th of March for April, May and June, as long as you believe your turnover will fall by 30% in those coming periods.
So what about if I'm a new business or I've bought a business over the last 12 months and I haven't got that history?
Businesses who have unique circumstances, so they're a new business, they've expanded rapidly, they've acquired another business, those businesses can apply to the ATO for discretion to be opted into the JobKeeper program. I would expect those businesses would need to still demonstrate a 30% reduction in turnover. So we'll find out more about those schemes or how that scheme will work in the coming weeks. But I would encourage any business who has been impacted, don't be discouraged, don't think you're going to be let out of the program. I believe it's the intention of the government to let as many impacted businesses as possible participate in the scheme to keep people off the job seeker payment and the settling program.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think the government genuinely wants to help every business that they can that's impacted. So everyone should apply and find a way through your accounting firm or through your accountant to justify that you've had a turnover or you've had a massive effect from COVID-19 on your business.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So stood down employees and people that have been let go from employers, they're still eligible?
Probably the second most common question we're getting from clients is, what about staff who are stood down? What about staff who we've let go? What about staff who are still on the books? So the answer is, as long as they're an eligible employee and they're in employment on the 1st of March, all of those staff will be eligible for the JobKeeper payment, regardless of whether they're still working full-time or perhaps reduced hours, or whether they have been stood down.
So the employer gets paid the money and then they pay the money to the employee?
Yeah, correct. So if you're an employer, if you've had employees who you've stood down and have gone on the job seeker program, for example, you're able to advise them that they're now eligible for the JobKeeper if the employer elects to do so. There's no obligation to do it. It's each employer's choice. In that case, that employee would contact Centrelink, advise them that they're no longer going to seek the job seeker payment and would instead be paid the $1,500 per fortnight by their employer as part of the JobKeeper program.
So in some cases, if people are earning less than $1,500 per fortnight, they'll actually be better off because they'll be earning $1,500 per fortnight under the JobKeeper going forward.
We have some people who would qualify for this program. Their ordinary wage may be less than $1,500 per fortnight for part-timers, for example. For them to be eligible for the JobKeeper program, they need to be paid a minimum of $1,500 per fortnight. So that means it's really important for employers to make sure any employee who is eligible that they pay them the $1,500 per fortnight. If they don't meet the minimum payment of $1,500 per fortnight, that employee won't be eligible for the JobKeeper payment.
Right. Just explain to us how that works. So do I have to cash flow the payment for the employee until I get paid?
So the employer pays the employee the minimum JobKeeper payment, whether they're stood down or they're still receiving their normal salary. So it's got to be a minimum of $1,500 per fortnight. In the first week of May, the ATO will reimburse the employer for payments made to eligible employees during that period. We're advised that the procedure will be the same in future periods, so that again, for each month, the employer would pay staff and then be reimbursed by the ATO in the following month. That means that employers effectively need to cash flow 2 or 3 fortnightly payments to employees under this program.
So if I'm comfortable that I'm eligible, then I should be paying my employees now, if they're not on JobSeeker, at the minimum of $1,500 per fortnight for all stood down employees.
Yes.
Right. That's a key point I think that people need to understand, because if you don't pay them, then come the end of April, the government won't reimburse you anything. So that obviously raises a good question about larger employers needing to cash flow these wages, and highlights the importance of making sure that people know their eligibility straight away, because you don't want to be paying employees who are stood down if you're not going to get the money back.
Correct.
And I heard you say earlier that the banks are being sympathetic towards employers in this situation, and maybe offering assistance to cash flow wages with the JobKeeper as a bit of a security blanket for them.
So the banks have identified that the JobKeeper program, while a great lifeline for businesses, is going to produce some cash flow difficulties for them, particularly for businesses that have zero revenue right now. So I'd encourage all impacted businesses, reach out, talk to your banks. They're keen to be able to provide solutions to allow employers to participate in the scheme, pay employees their JobKeeper payment, so that once these restrictions are relaxed, those businesses will be able to get back to normal sooner rather than later.
And what do you recommend that employers tell their staff during this period?
I think employers just need to have an open line of communication with their staff. There's a lot of information floating around about the JobKeeper program, and it's really important to make sure that employers are giving employees the correct information. And I think the 2 key things for employers to consider are, am I eligible? And 2, can I afford to cash flow the JobKeeper payments to employees? So for employers who do intend to take advantage of this scheme, once they've got those 2 things confirmed, they should be in touch with their staff to advise them they can receive the JobKeeper payment, so they can get off JobSeeker. Until that point in time, I think employers need to keep communicating with employees that they're still determining their eligibility for the program and still determining a way to be able to cash flow the payments.
So the critical piece of that is the overlap between an employee being paid JobSeeker and when they start on JobKeeper, because the employer could be liable for extra money if the employee has not cancelled JobSeeker quickly enough.
Yeah, correct. So there is going to be some overlap issues there. So for example, if an employee is receiving both JobSeeker and JobKeeper through the employer, there's going to need to be some clawback.
And what about future legislation and updates? What are your thoughts on that?
So the legislation that went through provided only the high level information on the JobKeeper program. It hasn't given us a lot of the details and individual criteria that are going to be very important for businesses. So I think everyone needs to stay tuned. Over the next week, the ATO will release more information about the program. We'll learn more, and part of the information they'll release is the formal application process that businesses and employers need to go through so they can start to access payments through the program.
Great, okay. Thanks, Sean. So everyone, it's very important that you go to ato.gov.au and register your interest. That will give the ATO the ability to contact you and keep you up to date with what's happening, and then send you the application forms when they are ready. Once again, talk to your accountants, talk to your advisors, understand your eligibility, because this is the biggest program that the government has announced of $130 billion. They want every eligible business to get it, and they will do whatever they can to help all businesses that are affected by COVID-19 to be eligible for this JobKeeper payment.